All right, everyone. It is 10 o'clock, so I will go ahead and get us started. Good morning. I am Taylor Post, Swiftland's office manager, and I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar, Evaluating Your Social Media, Understanding Statistics and Impact, and today's presenter, Diana Silvera. Diana Silvera is a librarian and president of Novare Library Services, where she works with libraries to develop, implement, and utilize technology effectively. Previously, she was employed by the Tampa Bay Library Consortium and the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Library. She has an MLIS from UNC Greensboro and a BS in psychology from Catawba College. Her book, Library Technology Planning for Today and Tomorrow, published by Rowman and Littlefield in 2018, is now available. Please welcome Diana Silvera and enjoy her webinar this morning. Diana?
Thanks, Taylor. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Evaluating Your Social Media. I hope you all had a nice weekend and are here today. I hope today's session is interactive, so please use that chat box a lot today to ask questions, to add your own insights and experiences, and feel free to disagree with me in there as well. At the end of the presentation, I will give you a link to the slides so you have access to them for your own perusal afterwards. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start off talking about what is the point of social media and sort of looking at that big picture, then talking about statistical terms and meanings, and then understanding what works and doesn't work, and how we can put this all together. So what's the point, right? That's the biggest question. What's the point? So why are users using social media? Why do you use social media? If you could in one sentence put why you use social media personally, not from work, that would be, let's just start that as an experiment. So go ahead and type in that chat box. You guys are hoping today you could just sit back, you're going to be typing. So Heather's saying connect. I see lots of people typing, so we're just going to give everyone a moment. Amy's saying to connect with my family and friends. Maureen says for work, but yes, entertainment. Connect, learn from others. Gary's saying talk with people who live far away, to see upcoming events, to keep up with family and friends, to find information about local businesses. Documenting, Aaron saying documenting travel, keeping up with friends and family. Facebook Connect with community and local events, Twitter for my library academic and political community, to share interests, news. And so this is exactly what everybody is talking about. I know that I use it for work, I use it for troubleshooting, but also to connect. I want to see happy pictures of my friends and people maybe I haven't talked about. Everybody's kids that I went to high school with are graduating high school this year. It's a really traumatic thing for me because I'm like, how did we get to this place? So many years ago we were in high school, now your kids are there. But it's at least 1 in 4 use it to discover, to learn, to purchase, to recommend products and services. And 1 in 3 people use it to find out about new stuff. So when we talk about what our library is doing on social media, I think it's important to remember exactly what you just said, because they want to connect, right? That is why they're there. They want to find out what's going on. They want to get some maybe local news. Maybe they want to find out what's new at the library. They want to keep up with what's going on in the library because many of them haven't been back yet, or they're just starting to come back and things are starting. So this is why they do it. And when we create our own reason for being there, we need to remember that the only reason social media will succeed is it's what's in it for them, right? It's what's in it for our user. If I follow your library on Twitter, if I follow it on Facebook or any of the other social media platforms, it's because there's something in it for me. So we have to keep thinking about this as we move forward. So when you are creating your goal, what is the purpose? Why does your library have a social media presence? because it's cool, because it's doing something. And this is when we talk about analytics, this is the most important part, is having a goal. Because I don't know what success is otherwise on social media. If I say I have 100 likes on a post, or 17 people commented on my last post, is that good or bad? Well, it really depends, right? It doesn't really have, that number doesn't really have any meaning by itself. So we have to have some sort of goal for it. And the most likely thing is something that turns this marketing opportunity, right? This connection place of social media into something that happens at the library. Are you just measuring interactions on social media? And if your interactions are higher, if if this week I have 50 people looking at a post, but in 2 months I have 100 people looking at a post, is that success? And maybe that is success, and it's okay. But what does that mean, and what does that translate to? So, are you seeing an increase in service? Are you promoting Hoopla, and all of a sudden you're seeing an increase in your statistics for that database? Are you seeing you're promoting new books, and now you're seeing some circulation increases or holds on those books? Do more people come to your programs? Maybe your programs are virtual, and that's what you're using the platform for. Or are you just trying to connect to the community, to let people know what's going on? And hopefully that just sort of engages your regular users a little bit more, and they feel closer to you because they've been able to comment on your posts, see what's going on. Are you trying to reinvigorate your teen group, especially after COVID? Everything's sort of down. So are you trying to get people back to, the library, that's the place we used to go to? Is that what you're trying to do? Are you trying to keep remote people engaged? Are you trying to help distance learner students? Are you just trying to make a general awareness of library services and what's available out there, or making your library known? Maybe your goal is not so much your local community, but it's to get your library on the map in the national platform. And you can see in social media, it gives you that opportunity. Like nothing else, a small library can have just as much bang as a giant mega library on social media. So the reason we talk about all of this is because as you create a plan, you look at the platforms you're putting your social media on and what you're posting, you need to go back to this goal and think about, is this helping me in some way? Because we all have a lot to do in life, especially at work. And so if you're doing something on social media that's not really helping, and it's just sort of we had 22 posts last month, that really doesn't do much for anybody. So you want to make sure you have some kind of goal with those 22 posts, and you can figure out if it's working or not. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody have sort of a goal already that they think about as they're posting? Marina's saying we started using TikTok to reach younger patrons. Jordan's saying library awareness. And Marine, that's a great place to do that because that's where your younger patrons are, and it's a fun platform to do that. Gary's saying a general connection with the community, not for the hits per se, but to get the information out there. And Claire's saying we have tons of virtual programming. And right now that is so important, Claire. And I don't think that's going to go away. People like virtual programming. Heather's saying I struggle with this a bit. I get competing requests from staff on what to post. How do I unify these in one goal? And Erin's saying that goes for us too. So Heather, that's a great question. And one of the things I would say with that is to have a schedule, to have some sort of because you can have multiple goals on social media. So maybe you have a social media schedule, and you know that Tuesdays are sort of going to be more youth services focused or programming. Uh, Wednesday afternoon is highlighting a program, and start to create that schedule like that, and then you can fill in the post and how they fit there, so that way you can keep a balance. If you know your goal is 60% of it is to increase program attendance, you want to have 60% sort of, working on that post, that to be a little heavier than maybe promoting new books and things like that. And then of course you have to balance it sort of with just some fun content as well, so people don't feel like all they're seeing from you is you pushing library services. So, but if engagement is going on, so I would try and balance those out in a schedule ahead of time and then let people fill them in. And then you can say, like, I get this, but we've already had 7 posts on this topic this month. Maybe next month we can start looking at that, to kind of get them to understand that there's a bigger picture out there. Does that make sense, Heather? Okay, great. And I know that's easier said than done sometimes when people are running up to you asking for that kind of stuff. So how do you select platforms to achieve your goal? And so this is, Pew just did a social media study in 2021, which I thought was really important because I think everybody's habits changed over the last year. So seeing what was going on. And of course, just intuitively, we know what's going on, right? Facebook, everybody was quitting Facebook, but nobody quit Facebook. They're all back. Everybody's there. It's, up there. YouTube, more popular than Facebook. It's got 1 billion videos though, so it's a lot of competition. Then you have Instagram and Pinterest and LinkedIn. And then a little bit lower, Snapchat, Twitter, and WhatsApp, and TikTok. And then below that is Reddit and Nextdoor. And now when you look at this and you go, well, obviously I have to be on Facebook. You probably have to be on Facebook as a library because it hits all demographics, and we're going to look at that in a minute. But the smaller niche stuff can have a bigger impact. We've already talked about TikTok getting those younger kids, and that's probably the best way to get that captive audience right now. Nextdoor, which is if it's big, and that's one of those things, it's also what your users use, right? National statistics do not say what people in Palm Harbor, Florida are doing. It's I have to kind of do a little analyzing. I have to talk to people. I have to figure out sort of those local analytics for this kind of stuff. So if I know my teens are on TikTok, that's where I need to be if I want to talk to my teens. If I know they're more Instagrammy kids, that might be where I need to be. So you can kind of cross post, of course, but you have to kind of figure out, because we can't, unless you're a full-time social media person, all of these are not going to be productive, and some of them aren't appropriate for us, and we're probably not going to have stuff there. But like Nextdoor, which has the smallest percentage, is huge in my area. And I can tell you, every time, you don't have to have a page on there, but you can post. And every time I post on Nextdoor, I get a volunteer. Easiest way to that is the most effective volunteering promotion that I have done in all of my time when I was working in literacy. So while it's a small percentage, it had the biggest bang for each post. So it's definitely trying to figure out what works for what you're doing. And not on this is Google Business. It's almost a social media, not quite. It's not Google Plus, it's Google Business, and your library needs to be on there, and you can post updates, you can post, and this is what, when people just type in, my library, public library or a school library, this is what comes up on that Google page result. And that's really the first place a lot of people have eyes on you. So it's really important to make sure your hours are kept up to date there. Anything special, especially holiday closures, COVID updates, and things like that are there. And remember, because every platform requires work. Even if you're sort of reusing the same content, you have to maybe resize it a little bit. The requirements are slightly different. So you're going to spend a little time for each platform. So you can't do every platform. So you need to find the ones that you're going to get the biggest impact for each one of your posts. So demographic wise, this is the same study. Just kind of looking, and again, this is national. So you're going to want to look at your local users. You can do a little quick surveys. You can kind of start playing around with some of these different ones and do a little beta to see what the results are. if you're targeting a specific group, if you're, a college library, you might want to look more at LinkedIn because the students as they're graduating are going to be on there and they would maybe value some posts from the library. If you're more looking at engaging your teens, maybe TikTok. And you can look down here and you can see, and again, you can see Facebook and YouTube are just kind of the densest over there. And one of the important things with all of this, and that's why I said the word beta, is try a platform. If it doesn't work, you don't have to use it for the rest of your life. We have all given up at this point MySpace. So you can say like, I tried TikTok, our teens really didn't engage on me in there. It's worth the experiment because if it works and you really tried and it really doesn't work, then it's time to move on and you know that. Susan's saying we're a city library and the city won't let us use YouTube, TikTok, etc. We're only allowed a Facebook and Instagram account. It's frustrating. Susan, yes, that is frustrating. And hopefully eventually I work with one library that 6 months ago, just 6 months ago, because of COVID, I think they finally let them have a Facebook page. So you're not alone in your struggles. And one of the things, if you're in a position to ask, is why? Is there, Heather says, I'm in the same boat. We can't post to it, only submit for approval. And that's one of the things I would say is if you stand back and say, is there a reason we can't use YouTube? Is there a policy? Is it archiving concerns? Is it comments? Are you worried about, the related video posts? Advertising, what exactly is in there? You might be able to figure out how to address it. Some of these social media platforms like TikTok, people don't know a lot about it, only what they read in the news. So if depending on what they've read, they might have a really skewed view of what is happening on that platform. So you might be able to just kind of have a conversation about it. And if you just if you have that space and I know you might not have that space to do that. But if you can, just kind of figuring out what the fears are and what you could do to eliminate it. If I post, and Susan, there is some companies you can hire software that will do the archiving for you. It's like a third-party tool that will download and store anything that happens on social media. And Heather's saying captioning and ADA compliance. And I would say a lot of these are getting a lot better. TikTok is adding in closed captioning. YouTube has done a lot, and you can now upgrade. You can actually upload your own captioning if you into your videos as you upload it. I did not, so when I was actually researching this for this session with closed captioning, some people were reporting they can actually do closed captioning now on TikTok. I do not have that option, so I think it's a beta thing, and that's where we're at right now. So Heather's saying we use Vimeo and add captions. Susan's saying we upload captions for Facebook. Yep, so you can do that now on YouTube as well. And you should be able to do that soon on TikTok. So where are your social media analytics? So those of you who don't know, the closed captioning, so Instagram and Facebook and YouTube will auto caption everything for you. It is 80% accurate depending on what you're doing. If you were doing something like this where you're talking right into a microphone, they're fairly accurate. Sometimes with spelling and things like that, they can really be off, especially with names or software programs and things like that. But if you're just kind of talking slowly into a mic, they're pretty accurate. If you're going into where you're doing a program and you're sort of further away from the camera and there's multiple voices, they can be less and less accurate. You can go in YouTube and edit this closed captioning manually. Facebook, I don't think you can actually do that at this point, but you can get a third-party overlay and put them and have your own captions made. You can use something like Otter AI. There's a couple companies that do that. And you can actually go in there and edit them yourself and fix them up, and they'll save them in the proper format so you can overlay them on a video. So social media statistics hide. We are only going to focus today on how the native statistics you can get. You could get software overlays that cost money and get even more stuff, but we're really going to focus on what's free because I think that's primarily what we're all able to do and interested in. I see someone's typing, so I'm kind of giving Andrea a second to type in her thought there. So Facebook, in Facebook's way, is constantly changing. I actually had a different slide in here for Insights and realized Insights is going away next week, so we just eliminated that from it. So when you look at Facebook, it now integrates Instagram right into your comments and into your report. So you have all of your statistics for Instagram and Facebook. Oh, Andrea is saying, when you upload a video on Facebook, they can auto-generate captions for you that you can edit, but sometimes it glitches out and you can't save your changes. We've had a hard time adding captions in Spanish successfully. That is not helpful at all if it glitches out and doesn't save your changes. Thank you for letting me know that. I had not tried that yet, but that's really unfortunate. They've had, Facebook struggles with ADA. Like I was trying to add alt tags to my images and it kept glitching out on me and I couldn't save my alt tags the other day. And it was getting really, really frustrated with it. So they have some really big issues with that stuff. So Facebook has Business Suite. This is, you have to be in your page and you kind of dig down and you find it. And every post that you have is here. Very easily, you can see the reach, you can see the post details, you can read all of that. You can look at stories separately. You can, look at photos, you can do all that. What's nice about this Business Suite is you can create posts and cross posts and schedule and look at a calendar and do all of that right in the Facebook interface. And that works for Instagram and it works for Facebook at the same time. They were hoping to add WhatsApp to this, but that did not, I don't think that's going to move forward because there was a lot of privacy issues with that because that's sort of a different beast. So YouTube has YouTube Studio and you can see how many people are viewing videos, how much they watched, if they turned on the closed captioning, which is often, I find that that number is continually going up as more and more people are using it, not just because they're having hearing issues, but because studies have shown there's better retention if you have learning retention if you have closed captioning on while you're learning. If you have mobile devices, it's a lot of times it's easier. If you are learning English as a second language, having captions on is very helpful because you can actually see the words broken down. So there's a lot of benefits to closed captioning besides just hearing impaired. So I see this trend of as more people are discovering this, the usage of it is going up, and I think as well as it's getting better. And you can see, you can click in here on reach, engagement, audience. You can find out all sorts of things about everybody that is doing that. You can also read your comments and things like that in one place. Twitter has, you can look at your statistics, you can see your impressions, which is the number of views, the engagements, and the engagement rate. And the engagement rate is if someone actually did something to your video. And you can kind of look at the statistics and export the data into a spreadsheet. And TikTok, you have to switch to a pro account. And a pro account is free. I know it sounds like it is not, but it is free. And when you switch over, it's a very quick switch. You get, you can't have a private TikTok if it's a pro account, but otherwise your account looks the same to everybody else, but you get a whole mess of analytics that goes with it. You can see your average watch time, your views, are people just discovering you? Are they going to your profile? Where are they coming from? Who's following you? All of that kind of stuff, and down to which videos were effective and which ones weren't. So all of them have basically those same statistics. We could, spend the rest of the hour going through, and this is LinkedIn and this is Pinterest, but all of them have essentially that same sort of center where you can look at everything and you can just kind of get those reports and those basic numbers. I absolutely love statistics. I'm going to say that. But with social media, I think you need to pick what you want to look at and just kind of, you can delve down and kind of have fun looking at stuff, but figure out what is actually useful for you at this time. If you're down to how many people were swiping right or left during my story, yeah, it gives you insight and it will help you figure it out. But if that's like, it's a lot of time consuming and it maybe at the end of the day isn't as useful in that overall picture. So Facebook and Instagram, you can engage. And again, this is public posts. So if I posted a post maybe about the library to a community group, if I just forwarded my post into the community group, the share button is going to be missing because my community group is private. So you need to make sure it's a public post when you're posting that. They can do all of the good old emojis, they can comment, and they can share. Those are effectively what you can do on Instagram and Facebook. So these are the things you're going to want to track on there. So when you look over here in your back end, you can see reactions, engagement, reach, comments, and shares. So you can just look at this, and this is an easy thing. You can customize these columns to add in a couple extra things, take away stuff that's not useful for you. If reach is not that engaged, you wouldn't just really know about engagement. So for example, this one, 1,000 people saw it, but only 12 people actually engaged with it. So you can see that has a really low percentage compared to something that maybe had more of a engagement level to reach. Likes are the most common thing, but they're very passive. A like is only, I like a lot of stuff. I go by, oh yeah, that's cute, like it. Oh, look at how cute your kid is. Like, look at your puppy. Like, that doesn't take a lot of effort from your user, but it is something. It means that I read it, I looked at it, and I engaged with it. A comment is more valuable. A comment means I took a second and stopped and wrote something. Maybe it was, a 1 second thought, but it could have been a lot more. It could be more. I will say if users comment, you need to react to it. You need to encourage it. You need to, reply to them with a comment. If they're, you put out, what are you reading this summer? And somebody puts their book name in there. I would, oh, that sounds good. It's not, we have it available at the library and things like that into those comments. The reason being, people, especially I work with a lot of seniors. My seniors are like, I commented and nobody replied to me. It's like a big moment when they hit a reply on a post. So making sure that you somehow acknowledge that, even if it was just the like button, that you saw that Bob actually did reply to a post, it makes them feel a little more valuable and that their comment was listened to. So let's delve a little bit deeper into all of this kind of stuff and what does all of these numbers mean. So the first thing you're going to see is organic versus paid over here. And what, of course, that means is what did you pay for the ad? And we're going to talk about, do you need to pay for ads in a little bit. But organic means I just was on Facebook and your post came by on my stream as I was scrolling. Clicks over here, these are that I actually did something. I clicked on your picture to make it bigger. I clicked, I downloaded it, I shared it, I did something with it. I clicked and I went on to the page that you sent me, all of that kind of stuff. Negative feedback is also something to pay attention to. You probably won't have a lot of this, but really pay attention when you see it. That means someone hit it, they hid all of your posts. They said, like, just don't show me, that snooze button. Don't show me anything from the library for 30 days or forever. I don't want to unfollow them, but I just never want to see them again. If they reported you as spam or if they unliked you because of it. And if you start to see that, you need to really take a second back and go, what am I doing wrong on social media? Or what am I doing right? Maybe you wanted to get rid of a couple people, but try and figure out what is going on and is it a trend that you want to avoid? And you might notice it was a trend, it's when I post story time stuff, a bunch of the older people quit. They don't want that. And maybe I need to look at having 2 pages on Facebook because the audiences don't want to get together. Also, you can look at your followers. Facebook knows, as we know, way too much about us. They know where we are, what we're doing, our hobbies, everything in the whole world. You can really delve into some of the statistics. You have to have a certain amount of followers to get in there. And this is my page, and I don't have that many followers, so I can't look at the demographic information. But you can really delve into where people are, their interests, their ages, their gender, and you can start to tailor your post for that. You might start to look and go, oh, look at this. On Instagram, my ages really skew younger, or I have a lot of women on Instagram and not so many on Facebook. And then you can start to customize your posts a little bit more based on that information. And you can just, and start to, do I need to adjust anything? So again, this is that customizing columns. And my video doesn't work on this page for some reason, so I can't share it to you. But stories, which are available on Facebook and Instagram, those are those little things that pop up on the top of your page when you log in. They only last for, I think, 24 hours. The statistics are not available. I think they're only available 48 hours. So you need to make sure you're getting them relatively quickly afterwards. But you can learn, it's really kind of creepy what you can find out about people. So I can see exactly who looked at my stories. It will show me the unique opens, and it will show me little pictures of them so I can see who did it and who didn't do it. How many people opened it, how many people swiped forward past it because they didn't care, or they went back because they wanted to see it again. I can see how many people engaged with it, if they swiped up so that they can reply. I think Palm Beach does really great. I think we have some pictures of theirs later, some quizzes and stuff like that using the swipe up action. Twitter, you get the same thing. Comments, reshares, which is when you just kind of forward on a Twitter post for someone else. You can comment on it or just kind of pull it up, or likes. And then you can also send it to somebody else. One of the things I like about this post is it's actually reusing some TikTok content, and it's forwarded on to Twitter. And I really like, if you don't follow Kelsey, she's a wonderful teen librarian and lots of great videos that are really fun. So which numbers matter? That's really, at the end of the day, right, what we want to know. Does anybody have any questions so far? I've gone kind of fast. One of the things I would recommend is having a big spreadsheet. I know that, you're like, oh, statistics. But have this big spreadsheet where you can compare stuff, you can put it down, you can look at overall trends, and you can start to manipulate the data and pull it into charts and stuff like that. That really will help you kind of pull it out of the software and look at stuff and, have different things, all of the different stuff we talk about today in that post. So maybe I put, June 2nd, story time, post video, 36 seconds or, 30 minutes, and the story maybe even being read, and then the statistics. And that way, when I go back to do stuff and go, why are, these Tuesday posts the most popular? And then I can look and I can say, okay, I noticed that Tuesday posts are all videos. Is it because it's Tuesday or because it's videos? And you can kind of analyze it from there. So we're going to look at these numbers and what matters. Your overall trends over time. Are you gaining or losing followers? This is really important. Are people engaging? Is your engagement up and down? The engagement is more important than the impressions, although impressions are important because if no one sees your post, no one's going to react to it. So over time, what is happening? And that's, not just this week, but over 6 months, over a year. Are you getting more followers or less followers, or is it just kind of staying the same because some people join, some people leave, and you don't really ever get a higher level? And if you're not gaining, you need to kind of maybe step back and say, what am I doing that I can engage more people? Are you seeing a clear trend? You might not. It might be kind of grayish in there, and you have to kind of analyze it and break it down further to see overall trends. And engagement. Facebook doesn't give you this number just natively. They give you the number of engagements and the number of impressions, as we saw on that slide. So you have to do a little math formula. Engagements divided by the number of impressions. And this is the number that matters, I think, the most. Because this means people cared about my post. It didn't just go by. So if you're seeing your impressions just go down, you're just seeing, like, my Facebook posts are, it used to be an average of 1,000 people saw every post, and now it's 400. Why is that happening? Well, first of all, Facebook changes their algorithm all the time, and the new algorithm is not picking you up. So a couple things to think about is publishing more consistently. The more consistently you publish, the more Facebook is going to promote you. Evaluating your comment. The more a post gets engagement, the more it's shared, which sounds counterintuitive, right? If you don't share it, how can I get more engagement? But the more people are liking it, the more people that are engaging with it, the more they're going to see it. The more I like your post, the more I like a Swiftland post, the more I'm going to see Swiftland posts in my feed, because Facebook knows it's something that makes me happy because I engage with it, or I look at it, or I comment on it. So I'm going to see more of that, and I'm going to see more like it on my post as well. So you're going to start to see that kind of stuff. Evaluate your posting times. If maybe the times you were posting are not working. I know with impressions, when I post for my friends group, the earlier in the morning I post, the more impressions I get, because I think the habit is they get their tablets, they get a cup of coffee, and they read their Facebook. And there's not a lot of other posts at 7:30 in the morning. So if I can post at 7, when they're doing that, I get more engagement. If I was going for a different audience, that would not be the time, because other people are not looking at social media at 7:30, that I would actually lower my engagement by posting at that time. So you need to figure out the younger the group, kind of the later in the day you need to post. College students is closer to lunchtime, and it kind of goes like that. So you need to kind of evaluate that. And most importantly, especially when you're trying to justify this whole presence, what is the return on investment of social media? Social media is not free. Maybe you have software that you're using to create the posts and the videos. The biggest expense is staff time. It's taking your time. You only have so many hours in your day. And if you have 17 other things to do, social media, if it's not returning a bang for the buck, it's not worth the time that you're going to put into it. So you need to make sure it's effective and that it's worth your staff time. So you're going to look at those engagements, and you're going to look back at those goals we talked about in the very beginning. Are more people aware of my library because of what I did? Are more people coming to, going to story times because I'm programming because they're virtual? Are these local users? Am I engaging more of my community because of this? Because I have this option, then it's worth it, and you're achieving your goals, and you are overall probably hitting goals in the larger library goal, not even just your social media goals. You're hitting some of your long-range planning goals and things like that. So understanding what works and doesn't work. And this is why that spreadsheet is so important, because you can break it down and really look at it. types of content that you're posting. Text-based, Adam, there's your Palm Beach County Library posts. I don't know if you did that one, but those are great. Your types of content, your text-based post, videos, images, animated GIFs. What kind of content is it? Is it original content or curated content? Curated content means I grabbed it from somebody else and I'm forwarding it. Is it a story or a post? Having all of this documented in my spreadsheet will help me look at the overall trends, because then I can look and say, you know, animated GIFs are actually more popular than video when I post to Instagram. So I need to make sure that I'm doing that moving forward. I'm finding that stories are engaging more people than posts. So I need to do more stories. I wouldn't give up on posts altogether, but maybe more stories as you're doing this, or posting something into stories that you're posting regularly. So breaking all of this down into that spreadsheet will help you. And then the general sort of subject matter. And these are types. This might not be the types you have, so you need to make sure you are, these reflect what you actually have. And I would just have some general categories: live programming, recorded content, fun facts, viral trends, feel-good posts, reviews, testimonials, events, things like that, whatever I'm posting. And then I can look back and I can look at the engagement by topic, and I can say subject matter wise. And Heather, this goes back to when everybody wants you to post everything. You can go back and say, hey, I looked, and event posts do not get a level of engagement on our stuff. So we're not going to do those anymore. We're only going to do those a smaller amount of time because they're not, or we're going to change them because text-based event postings don't work. But maybe we find animated GIF event postings work. So then you can start to focus in and really get those working. So you need to, as you're analyzing, figure out if it's the day, the type, or the subject matter that's making your post effective or not. And if you get in the habit of just putting all of this in a spreadsheet, it's not as overwhelming to pull it out and to look at this stuff. And if you already have a content calendar, you might already have some of these columns, and it might be you just adding some extra columns to the end of your content calendar management. Because the content matrix at the end of the day that you're figuring out is what type of post gets the most engagement, and is the format or the subject matter the main factor? Do people just respond better to animated GIFs or video than images or text? Or is it because it was a story, or because it was aimed at teens, or what was it that made that really pop in my usage? And being able to figure this out is the diamond. This is what gets to the heart of your social media and can help you make or break your social media, because you can really figure out what you're connecting to. I can figure out that my users like this kind of post, and I can do more of those. And I can really start to work on connecting with men. It doesn't mean that's what, okay, I figured it out. They really like this one kind of thing, and that's all I'm going to do. That's not what we're going to do. We're just going to do maybe a little bit more of it, and then start to look at, okay, well, the videos for fun facts was not as effective, and those are really time consuming. So we're not going to do those, but what we can do is pull together an animated GIF, because that's more effective and it doesn't take as much staff energy to pull it together. So we can start to do that kind of stuff as we're doing that. I think none of the videos work in, she was doing some viral shelving. And we can all be as lucky as LA Public Library and get a teen band that's going to end up with a record contract on our Facebook and Instagram Live, but that's always a great thing. So having fun with social media at the same time as, all of the statistics are always like, oh my gosh, you've taken all of the fun out of all of social media, but remembering to have fun with it too. I think that that's one of the things, because go back to the very beginning, that's what we said we want to do, right? You're on your social media for entertainment and to connect. So all of this stuff needs to kind of go back to those main thoughts. And again, evaluating timing Maybe you change for snowbirds, maybe you change in the summer. You can even look at that kind of stuff as you've done this for a while and you start to collect your stuff. When are people most engaged? Again, these are national averages, so maybe not telling of your specific group. You're going to have to kind of look at this on each platform. And you're going to do this with TikTok, you're going to do this with LinkedIn, you're going to do this with any social media post that you're doing. And then analyzing your followers. And one of the things I would really think about with social media is, are you connecting to your audience or a national audience or an international audience? And maybe that's okay. Maybe you need, or maybe your library or your institution wants you to focus on one of those. And because if you have 10 million new followers, we all hope, but they're all from Europe, is that what your library needs? So kind of thinking through that to make sure that we're actually successful in our goal, because the numbers, again, don't really tell at the end of the day. So you want to, okay, I have a lot of followers, but are they the followers that I'm looking for? And you can get into that with that geographical background. You can follow, if you're following, your library needs to really think through and have a policy if you're following other accounts, but you might follow like your park and recreation, other departments at your college, things like that. And that would help you with cross-posting and sharing information with those other institutions. But I would be really picky on who I follow. You can also tie your social media into Google Analytics to kind of look a little bit further into it as well. And this will help track people into your website a little bit. Beyond just Adam saying, do you have suggestions on how to manage social media in multiple languages? I've seen some libraries who post multiple languages in the same account and others who have entirely different accounts in that other language. If you were fully going to, for example, if you were going to do a full social media post in Spanish, I might consider having two profiles, one in Spanish and one in English. And that's just if you're going to post the same amount of content. I wouldn't have a Spanish social media profile if I was only going to post sometimes in Spanish, because then you're not giving them all the information. But I know that a couple of the posts that I follow, they do multiple languages, and it can kind of get just jarring if you open it, why is the library posting in something different for me? And I think that's a great point and a huge way to connect to your community and to make it more inclusive. Especially if you print text on images, which is an ADA no-no, but we won't even get into that. It is very difficult for people who don't speak English as a first language. I know I follow, my husband's family is Brazilian, and so they all post in Portuguese and I have no idea. I can't translate it easily. I have to type it into a translator one letter by one letter slowly, and I'm not going to do that for the library posts. So I don't do that for most of their posts. So you want to make sure that you are connecting with everybody in your community. And again, I would try it, and if people don't follow, you can't connect it, you can't get a foothold into that group, then maybe it's not, because it's a lot of energy figuring that out. So also beyond following just your own statistics, following hashtags, following what people are saying about the library. You see this a lot on Twitter and you see this on Instagram, not so much on Facebook. You will see some of this on TikTok, especially if people are tagging the library. People are making their own content. They're not asking you permission. They're filming a TikTok in the stacks. They're not talking to you about it. Are they mentioning the library in their posts? Are they positive? Are they negative? And they're neutral. And you need to just follow hashtags and follow things like that to kind of keep up with that. Because you want to know what people are saying about the library. You don't want to be the last to know that something's going on. Should you boost your posts? This is the age-old question. Facebook is making this like everything I post. It's like, shouldn't you boost this? Don't you want to boost this? No, I don't. Boosting does help somewhat. The way I would say this about it, it's a very contained amount of money. because you will say, I would like my campaign to be, I'm going to see if I can move to there. I'm going to move to the pointer. All right, so, okay. We're just going to make random drawings here. So down here is, you can see, I can say I would like 5 days, it to end on June 2nd, and I'm only going to spend $10. And it's going to tell me 251 people a day will see my ad, because that's my, so you can get very specific. You can put in as much or as little as you want. I don't know how to erase what I just did. Hopefully that goes away on the next slide. Okay, good. So you can get very specific. I would say I would only do this for very specific reasons. I would not just have every library post boosted. I would do this if I was doing something that I really wanted to make sure people in my community or my users were following. Promote my page in general. I don't feel like that's really that important. But if you were, you were going to have your first live program, you were going to have your first something, or a bigger program is coming, or an online, you're going to have a special author come to an online program. Those are the kind of things I would look at boosting as a library. So you can creepily get very specific, as we've all heard in all of the Facebook news. So my potential reach can be up to 350,000 people. I can then come in here and say, like, I only want, this is a program aimed for seniors, so I'm only going to say 55 and higher. That's all I want. I only want people who live within 10 miles of my library, because, or, I can type in a zip code for a branch, and I can say only 10 miles within this branch. I can say I only want people who are married, single, divorced, in a relationship. I can keep going, whose birthday is within a month of this, and like to run. You can get so overly specific in this. I would say keep it as local as possible. Nobody is going to drive, unless you're doing some kind of big event that's online and you really don't care where people are from. People want to do stuff local. So I would keep my ads as small and local as possible, so you'll get more impressions out of each ad, and maybe I'll see the ad more than one time and get it in my head that there's something going on. With video, you can do a couple other little things within YouTube I just wanted to mention. You can see how far people watched your video. So you created some tutorials on how to use databases, or you recorded some programs. You can see what people are only watching. I have 52 people who watched it, but they only watched the first 30 minutes of it, or they only watched the first 5 minutes of it. So I can start to say, like, okay, I'm making these hour-long videos, or I'm making these 30-minute story times, but only 5 minutes is being watched. Maybe I need to stand back and make 5-minute story time videos. I can start to change my tact to fit what my audience is doing, and see if that is a better fit for my users. Are they using captioning, and where they are, and if that matters for you. And again, if it doesn't matter, I wouldn't even record that on my spreadsheet. I would just move on. That's not a statistic you need. So I did want to give you a couple tools of the trade that you can use. Of course, Canva, it's free for nonprofits. So your library, if you don't have a free pro account, I highly recommend it. If you don't, even if you don't, I highly recommend it. As a company, I pay for it myself because it is amazing, and it does do social calendaring, posting. It's not as robust as something that was dedicated to that, but it does do posting to Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. You can only do one at a time though, so it does take a little more energy. BuzzSumo, if you are just trying to figure out what to post, that will tell you what's trending, what's hot. You can do some subscriptions. You can also do a lot of stuff on there for free, just kind of playing around. ShortStack, if you're doing any online contests, that's a really great way to manage that. Statistics and analytics, of course, Google Analytics, later, Buffer, Shield app will actually help you manage your LinkedIn account. Instagram, that link in bio that you see all the time now, that's Linktree, Tailwind, Smart Bio, LinkedIn Bio. Those are all sources for that you can do. Also in Facebook, there's a buried away in your overview is pages to watch. And not that I'm saying you should compete with your other local libraries, but you can follow others and see what they post. So Navarre, for example, it found other web design companies in my area, and it recommends that I can watch their page, and it will give me statistics to compare and show me what works and doesn't work for them. So I can look and say, hey, this Redfish Web Design posts tips every Thursday, and that's really an effective thing. I can see that their posts are going up with that. I should do something like that and not copy them, but make my own tips and maybe do it Wednesday so I'm up first. You know, and I always do better with competition. So, you know, just kind of following around with that and making sure that you have fun with that. Yeah, you can find inspiration. You can see what's happening. You might even find partnership opportunities with other local organizations this way because you can see some overlapping and stuff that you can do. Facebook pixels, I do not personally have this turned on because I don't like Facebook on my website, but it is a really good way to measure conversions. What it is a little bit of code you put onto your website, and then you can follow the trail. So if I am linking people back to to my events page to register for an event, it will tell me if that actually happened, that I had a conversion, or if I had someone place a hold or had someone go into overdrive. It will help me do that. And if you actually have dynamic ads, it will show website visitors products on your site. I don't know if that will hook up to an ILS, but it's possible. You can do a whole mess of stuff like that and really create some dynamic stuff tying this in. So if you're definitely going to invest in Facebook as your main place, this is a really great resource. And remember, constantly look at your social media as a communication and connection tool. If you are not connecting, if you're just posting stuff and nobody is engaging with you, it is not worth your effort. You need to take a step back and look at what you're doing and figure out how you can communicate and engage with your users, especially in this post-COVID time when we're trying to reconnect to people. They've kind of lost the thread of the library. Maybe they just got used to downloading books on Libby or Hoopla or accessing your electronic resources. Let's get them connected back to us. And I think this is a really important time for social media to do that. Remember to look at, is it working? Focusing on that ROI, that return on investment, going back to those goals that you set up in the very beginning, and looking at the overall trends in my social media reports. And what trends am I seeing? Am I starting to see that my goals are being reached? Am I seeing that I'm engaging more people? That's really the trend. Am I seeing you're working on reinvigorating your teen group? I'm seeing that these TikTok videos that we're putting together are really bringing people together, and we're doing TikTok videos together on Thursdays, and I'm seeing a bigger and bigger group coming together so that we can do this. What can I change to make it better? That's really important. And how can I make it more engaging? How can I connect a little bit better to my users? Just a couple resources for you to read on your own afterwards. This is the link to the slides and my contact information. We went over a lot of content really fast today. So if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to go over stuff again. I'm also happy to hang out here for a while and answer questions or listen to what you're doing. I hope you found something useful today and that you walked away with something you're going to implement and try at your library. Thank you so much for all of you coming today.
Thank you, Diana, for an informative webinar this morning. As always, we encourage you to keep an eye on the Swiftland CE calendar, the Swiftland Facebook page, or your message from the listserv. Thank you everyone for attending and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Diana.
Thanks, Taylor. Thanks, Deb.